Hello, welcome back, Coffee Talkers, the Coffee Talk with Brandy. I have my guest, Kyle, here, who we're going to sit here and chat and have a good conversation. What about? We don't know exactly. But just so you know, we have some fun mugs here. Mine has a llama on it, and it says, "Llama, just say you're amazing." And he has...
It's me, Mario.
Me, Mario. That's my daughter. That's my daughter. She loves... what is it? Mario? What is it? Mario Brothers?
Mario Brothers. Yeah. It's the Plumber Brothers.
The Plumber. I didn't even think about that. It is the Plumber Brothers.
It's one of my son's favorites.
Yeah. Well, and it's enjoyed throughout many people and ages and groups, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Coffee Talk with Brandy. I hopefully we'll have enough conversation as I get nervous, right? He gets nervous, I get nervous. I don't know. Are you nervous?
I'm always nervous. Being an adult on the spectrum, I tend to do a lot of masking.
Okay.
And so underneath the masking is generally a 24 hours a day constant social anxiety.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm constantly terrified.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Because, so you're on the autism spectrum. My daughter is also on the autism spectrum, and we were talking a little bit earlier that your child is also on the spectrum, correct?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, well, I love being around people who are diverse in their thinking because it helps me to learn more. I also get nervous, but if you will answer the question, and again, if you don't feel like you want to answer it, you don't have to, but can you tell us a little bit more about masking? Like, what are you doing when you mask and why?
So masking is a way to, that's a great question. How to explain masking? Masking, words.
Stressing you out.
No, it's not stressing me out. So masking is a way of I guess coping.
Okay.
So a lot of masking will, since I'm a little more aware of it, things like tapping is a self-soothing, and it allows a refocus of the thoughts. Pre-scripts. Spending a lot of time pre-scripting in your head how an interaction will go. How's this conversation to go? What can I say? What specific body language, tones, reflections can I use in order to navigate the social situation? And depending on the people, that can be very different. So masking tends to look a lot like. For most people, you don't even notice it. It's a tapping of the fingers. It's a fidgeting or a yes.
Well, I think this is a great conversation in the fact that in general, people mask a lot. We're afraid to be our authentic self. So we mask in order to fit into an environment, or we fit into the world in the grander sense. Do you feel like that's part of masking for you, or no?
Absolutely. You're gonna have to repeat that.
That's okay. Well, I'm just saying in general, like, people mask often, whether, and I don't know, because I don't experience autism, so that's why I'm asking this. Before I became secure with who I am, I would mask who I was, my authenticity, in order to be liked or to be accepted.
Yes.
And
yes.
I find that so often so many people do. We mask because we're afraid of or don't feel like we fit in or we want to be accepted. So we put on this portrayal of what we think somebody might be accepting about us if we act that way.
Absolutely. And for myself, I tend to do a lot of people watching. Like in my travels, when I'm off photographing, and I stop at a diner or I'm in town just doing my walk arounds, I will watch the way people interact with each other, to get kind of that idea of how people interact, and I will look at certain things, you know, I will look at certain things that I do personally. You know, okay, so people don't generally over talk about their hyper interests. All right, so let's avoid that conversation. People don't generally, you know, make random noises, so let's avoid that. You know, people who do these, so let's focus on this, and yes, masking to put on your what you think is the socially acceptable face. Thankfully, we are now getting into a time where being yourself is more socially acceptable, and I love the fact that we have reached this point that being yourself is widely acceptable, and that all these, you know, it's not okay to be yourself, you need to be this way, you have to pretend, it is falling into the old, you know, the old behaviors, and you know, the older generations, that's no longer where we are, that people want authenticity, and they want you to be you for you, and nobody else. And sure, there's still some folks who struggle with that, but I think overall, as a collective whole, as humans, we've kind of gotten to that point that being different is not just okay, but it's encouraged. It shows a sense of uniqueness. It shows a sense of self-identity, and it, I think, allows people to feel more confident and comfortable in who they are and their interactions with others. Is it still hard? Absolutely. Do we still fall into behaviors of masking and pretending that we're okay even when we're not okay? 100%. Is that okay? No.
Yeah. I love how you said that nowadays it's more accepting to be yourself. And I love that because, number one, I've had to learn a whole new set of parenting skills as a parent of a child who experiences autism or is on the spectrum, however people like to say that, because I was taught like person first language, like somebody who experiences autism. And then I've also learned in speaking with people who are on the spectrum, like, just call me autistic. So I think it's just a matter of, you know, being meeting people where they're at.
Right.
And I know for me, like, as a parent, when like my daughter would do things that were different, right, from typical child behavior. And I don't even know if it was really that different. It was just like I was nervous that I was being judged, right? So as a parent, I was worried. And I remember, I think she was like in 3rd grade, and she absolutely wanted to wear her SpongeBob pajamas to school every single day. Yes. Right? Who doesn't want to wear pajamas to work or school?
Yes.
And for me as a parent, I was mortified at that point. And so I was trying to change her. And I wanted her to stop and all this stuff, but I had to take a look within myself because she was happy. My daughter was happy.
And that's what's important. If you if you want to wear SpongeBob and the tutu, wear SpongeBob and the tutu. If that's what makes you happy, right, be happy. Is it hurting other people? No. Do they feel hurt? Maybe. But that's something they need to work through. You know, it's who we are is who we are, and we shouldn't be afraid of that. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. We shouldn't have to hide that from other people, and we definitely shouldn't teach our children that they need to hide who they are or who they feel they are as they explore that world, because it's a big world, and you know, it's different, it's scary, and we need that encouragement and that empowerment, especially from our parents, that you know, hey, I want to be a superhero today. You know, just be there with me, encourage me. If I get hurt, be there to help me back up and brush me off. You know, otherwise, I think it's really important that children on the spectrum or not have that feeling that it's okay to express themselves and to be whatever it is they want to be. Like it doesn't matter. It's not anybody else's right to say that my child can't look this way or be this way or have these interests because it's not quote unquote normal or acceptable or you know what is expected of a child his age or of, you know, dare I say, his gender. You know, and those thoughts and those mentalities just need to be wiped clean.
Yeah. This is such a great conversation because it's like, again, like part of Coffee Talk with Brandy is really that self-awareness piece. And I brought into the fact, like, I had to become aware, like, what was my issues with it? That became about me. Mm-hmm. It's not about my child. My child's completely happy. And I had to take a step back and go, wait a minute, why am I forcing this? And it was my own insecurities. It was my own fear of being judged. It was my own fear that I wasn't a good mom because people would think that whatever they think, right? So I had to do my own work in order to come to that space to go, my daughter is happy. Who the freak cares if she's wearing SpongeBob pajamas? She's in school, she's learning, she's doing what she needs to be doing, and she's happy when she's there. So I had to let that go.
Exactly.
One of the things I have noticed about you as we've been talking is that you're really self-aware. And I love that because it helps us to have some really deep conversations. And we were talking a little bit earlier about that self-awareness.
Yes.
And about, like, people just sometimes were not aware, right? And they might not want to be aware because of their own pain, their own trauma, whatever that is. But when we become self-aware, it's so incredibly empowering.
It is. It really is. I spent so many years believing that I needed to be a certain way, and that I needed to act a certain way, and you know, because I was, you know, because you're a man, that you need to, you know, you need to have the corporate job. You need to have that corporate job. You need to work that 9 to 5. You need to have that security. You need to provide. You need to show strength, and that you needed to keep your problems to yourself. You know, for the sake of others. You were doing it for a noble reason. Yeah. The reasoning was there, you know, to provide for your family, to be there for your family, to be that rock, that pillar of strength that they can rely on. But then when that starts to falter and crack, who are you relying on? And I realized over the years that I was getting stressed out. I was having false stress heart attacks, you know, or what felt like a heart attack due to stress, and still that mentality of not understanding. Well, you know, I just need to push through this. I just need to be stronger. I need to focus more. I need to pray. I need to meditate. I need to find Zen. You know, I need to, you know, just figure it out for myself. And as that started to change and fall apart, and I started to embrace my autism more, I started to realize that those were just false ideals that were taught, mm-hmm. that were, you know, instructed that this is the way you need to be. And I wasn't happy. And as those things started to change, as I left the corporate job, as I downsized, and I started to look into myself more, I started to realize that these things weren't making me happy. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't who I was. I was putting on a face, I was putting on a mask to fit in with the rest of everyone else. And there was that constant fear of, you will be discovered. They're going to find out who you are, and then you're going to be put on trial, and everything you've built is going to be gone.
The shame that's created around being true to ourselves.
Exactly. That the shame of you're different and that's not okay, and that in itself is not okay.
No, it's not.
And is that what we want for our children? Is to feel that we need to pretend so that we can fit in with everybody else who are also pretending to fit in with everybody else,
right?
So that they can pretend to fit in with everyone else. And it's just that perpetual cycle, and eventually we need to break that cycle.
It's that narrative. We've been taught this narrative from a very young age of what your life is supposed to look like, right? You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to pop out babies. You're supposed to get a 6-figure income. You're supposed to do all these things, right? But nobody's really taught us like to look within. And so it becomes so empowering, as you were just talking about, the moment you started to realize, like, wait a minute, what do I want? Like, what is it? What do I need? You know, it's like the question I feel for me, and I talked about it on my prior, one of our prior episodes, was, what do I want?
Right. I think I remember that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You did say, I invited you here. We had a conversation, and you said you are enjoying this series. So thank you for watching.
Absolutely. Coffee Talk is fantastic.
Well, my goal is really just to have real conversations and to, talk about things that might not necessarily be talked about, such as the self-awareness piece and how empowering it is. And, I'm a certified peer support specialist, so I spent many years helping families who have children who experience emotional, mental, behavioral challenges, and having my own life experiences with my daughter who, had some challenges when she was younger. She is the sweetest, most kindest, loving young woman you'll know. And again, it's like we were talking earlier a little bit too about words and how different it was when she was younger. And you were telling me also, like, it wasn't typical for my daughter to say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like we have these narratives that are given to us, that is told to us, that'll make us happy. But validation is really important. Let's talk about that.
It is, yes. Validation is extremely important. But there's ways to validate on a nonverbal level, and a lot of children with autism are nonverbal, and or some end up crossing that language barrier, some never do, and there's other ways to words.
Yeah.
There's other ways past that, in a nonverbal, yes, words.
Well, I just to go along with what you're saying, I lose my words too, just so you know. So it's a me thing. It's an us thing.
Yep.
And it's a COVID brain thing.
Yep.
On top of that, and it can be really hard. Like if your brain doesn't necessarily think in words can be harder to think about. My daughter thinks in pictures. Like it just visual pictures for her is how she kind of, that's how she processes things. So, actions. It's like. Actions are important. It's the little things that can say, I love you. Like, the fact that she'll bring a flower in, or
yes,
or she'll say dinner was great, or, these are the little things that also show we love somebody. So it's like.
So for my son, for many years when he wouldn't say, I love you, you'd say, I love you. And you'd get that blank stare back. It was really hard, and you'd want to cry, because we're brought to that. We need that validation. We need those words. We need the pretty words to make us believe it. But then there's moments when he'd come up behind you and he'd squeeze around you really, really tight, or he would grab your cheeks and he'd press his forehead into your forehead and grunt a little bit, and you knew that was his way of saying, I love you, and that I'm trying to show you how much I love you, and that that's the world, and that makes it, that makes it so much better, and
Yeah, my mind is drifting a little bit to the same topic though, but it makes me think about my grandfather, or, we have so many different cultures. Even in American culture, it's not necessarily like I love you is, we think it's typical, but it might not be because people don't exactly, maybe we don't know how to say that. Maybe, I didn't grow up in a home where my parents said it very much at all. And my love language is words of affirmation. So I'm very much so making sure that I tell my kids that. And, at this point, even they're teenagers, they're still reciprocal with that love and I love you. It makes me feel so amazing that my son at 15 comes up to me every morning before he goes to school and he hugs me. He's like, "Mom, have a great day." That's so beautiful because I need that just as much as he needs that. His love language is physical touch, so like a hug in the morning is great. But it reminded me also of my grandfather, who was not very expressive in saying he loved you. And my grandpa, I'll try not to cry. Oh my gosh. My grandpa has been gone for a long time, but he was so kind to me. And I know that as a father, it wasn't always easy for his children, as my dad would share. But my grandfather's way of making sure that you felt loved is to make sure you had enough food. And he was Italian, right? So
Yep.
oh my God, we would literally have a Thanksgiving feast. And let me tell you, our feasts were prime rib or the turkey. On top of that, it was pasta, homemade spaghetti sauce. You had everything. And like literally an hour and a half later, he's calling the restaurant down the street that he has a very good rapport with. And he's ordering Chinese food. And we're like, oh my God, I'm so full, I can't even eat. But it was my grandfather's way of saying, I love you so much. And so maybe part of our conversation right now is just like bringing about the differences of how people express love. Like just be mindful when we're in the presence of somebody and maybe you want to hear those words, whether it's a partner or whatnot. Maybe they just don't have that skill built up yet, and be mindful like the little things in life that they're sharing is maybe their way of showing that they love you.
Well, and that's just it. Like we all communicate different, and it's understanding. No, don't get me wrong. Not all communication is acceptable and is okay, but we all communicate different, and it's learning. It's learning that love language. How can we grow together, or how can we build together this bridge so that we can feel connected, where, as you mentioned, like your grandfather would provide and provide. My grandfather was a lot of that same way, of the sense of I remember when I was between high schools. I was moving from one high school to another, and I had a gap in my education time. My grandfather would come pick me up every day, and he would take me somewhere, either to the museum, or he'd take me to the soup kitchen, or he'd take me to lunch, and we'd always have these discussions and these conversations. And in my younger years, I didn't quite understand what was happening, and it wasn't until I was older that I realized that he was trying to express his understanding and his love and his connection through these activities and through these. I have my own world, but you're in need right now, and I know you're in a tough transition period. And so I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there for you every day. And I'm going to show you that I'm here. And I may not say I love you, but I'm going to be here for you. And I'm going to support you and help guide you along. And unfortunately, he just passed away a few years ago. But that was his way of expressing that. And I never realized that until I was I was, became a father, and
Yeah.
so much changes when you become a parent, and your overall aspects of understanding these different levels of love and connection, especially with your children, changes so much, and especially the children on the spectrum, since it's a whole other world in itself, of patience and understanding, and that genuinely unfaltering love of being supportive and just being there and being present, in all that entails and is worth.
Yeah. Well, and it's so true. And it's like, again, it becomes that self-awareness piece. Like before, as you were saying, you didn't realize what your grandfather was doing back then. We don't even think about it so often, especially as children. But things change in our lives when we become parents, or we're living in a different part of our life, whether you're a corporate worker or whatever it is, building your own business. Like, we start to see our life in a different way. And it's like all of these things, like I didn't know some of the things, like, what my parents were going through until I'm older, and I'm processing that through my own marriage. And when I was married, I'm now divorced. But these are just things, like, you start to realize differences and like different phases in life. You'll start to become aware of things that you weren't aware of before, like the love of grandpa or those things, because it wasn't
Right.
necessarily just given in that way that we perceived it, right?
Well, and that's exactly it. And especially in our younger years, we have this mentality to not everyone, but to have that very narrow sight. We're very focused on the instant gratification, and I imagine, especially nowadays with everything, instant gratification is
They're going to like 7-second videos because people's attention span, and I'm like,
it's funny. I was just talking to somebody about that the other day, about how if you watch, that is one of the things that makes TikTok so popular, is the fact that they are 30-second to 3-minute videos, and that is it, because that is the attention span of the instant gratification, and the way we feed on that information is it's quick information that's exuberant, vibrant, bright.
Releases dopamine, and it feels good, right?
And it feels good, and dopamine is a drug, and we crave that drug.
Yeah.
Just like yes, words.
So, okay. Well, it makes me think of, and because I'm new to using my new camera. I got a new camera, so hopefully, so I don't have a timer there. Or maybe we do. I don't know. I can't see. Can you see it?
I've got such poor eyesight. Even with glasses, I'm blind.
I think we're at 28. I don't know. Well, hopefully people's attention span will be good enough for this video. But again, it's like...
They should. They absolutely should.
Shared stories are connective, and I think that's why it's important to do this. It's like, I think that connection with shared stories helps us to feel seen and heard. And that's the basis of what helps people to move forward in life. Is being seen and heard.
It's true, yeah. It's the validation. It's the you said it perfectly yourself. Being heard, just being heard, and that there are people out there who are struggling or don't have everything figured out, and that's okay. And I think it's important that people realize that there's others out there who don't have all the answers and are just trying to figure it out as they go along, and that we don't and that we don't have to be perfect, and that we just put ourselves on the back burner, we fry ourselves out, we burn ourselves out by trying to live wearing a mask, pretending that everything's okay when it's not okay, and not taking care of ourselves, and especially as a parent, a single parent.
That's really weird.
46 minutes. What?
I know. Well,
and I haven't even really looked at my watch since I got here, so.
Okay, well, that's so funny. Well, I'll try to piece this together, but you
Okay,
were
yeah.
just so eloquently just talking about how we're, it's okay to not have it all together. And you had such better words than I'm doing it right now.
It's okay not to be okay.
Yes! I don't have it all together. I mean, it's so, I don't know. I don't fall into the stuff of people posting perfect pictures and all of that stuff. And I try to put the real stuff out there because I'm human. I am imperfect. I screw up.
Well, and that's just it. So for a lot of us, we fall down that hole of social media, of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever.
Yeah.
And that literally, we see all these filtered photos, and we see all the best. Here's my family out to dinner here. Here's my son's awards in this. Here's my beautifully manicured lawn. You don't see here's my child's trash room. Here's the ceiling tiles falling down in the garage because I haven't had time to fix them. Here's here's me after a long day without a shower, covered in keef. Like it's we post and push those manicured pictures because we want, again, that face, that mask of everything is okay, that I have a beautiful life just like everybody else.
Yeah.
When that's not the reality, that we don't live in that reality, and not accepting the fact or being honest with the fact that it's okay to not be okay is not okay.
Oh yeah, I am more torn. No, I am more. See, there's my words again. I love to be in the presence of people who are not afraid to share the shit. Can I say it? I mean, it is my show. Tell me all that stuff because I can't stay surface. It bores the crap out of me. I want to know like all about your life and what has been hard because that's what's connective. Mm-hmm. And as Brene Brown talks about, our stories connect us. We're connected and feel seen and heard when we see somebody else being brave and sharing their story, because if we can find a sense of empathy and a sense of shared stories, that helps us to know we are not alone, and we're not.
We're not alone.
We're not alone.
There's so many people out there, and like it's when you really think about it, of how many other humans are literally on this planet, on this ball, hurling through space. It's dumbfounding. Like, you are not alone. There are so many others experiencing not necessarily the exact same situation, but a lot of the same things. And they need, they don't need that perfect person telling them, oh, well, you just need to buck up. You just need to tighten your bootstraps. You need to...
It's because it's just negating who we are.
Right. At least for myself, a lot of what helped me were others like myself who struggle. I am part of quite a few support groups on Facebook, Nextdoor, and a few others of other adults on the spectrum. Some single parents, some who have fantastic contracting jobs and beautiful homes and things like that, and others who struggle to even get out of bed in the morning. And it's, but as a group, we connect and we help each other in encouragement and teachings and just letting you know that it's okay to not feel okay, that today is a rough day, and that is okay, that it won't be forever, and that as long as you continue to strive and do what's best for you, that you can get there, and that you will get there. And it might be a long road, and it's never ever easy, but that with that support and with supporting each other, we can make great strides, and that's so refreshing, and it's so encouraging. Because I see it constantly. I see the masks, and I see people wearing their own masks, and the more you watch, the more you see people, how they'll interact with one group and another group, and they'll change themselves to fit in these different groups. Well, here's my narrative, here's my conversation piece, here's how I interact with these people, but what about when you're in private and it's just you? Is that still the same person who is there interacting with these others, or is that the real you? And why can't you express and be that person with others?
Yeah. Well, and wrapping this up, but I love the fact, I know we could talk forever, but it's really like, who are you when you were alone? And we talk about the feeling of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of loneliness is brought on by the fact that we do not want to allow ourselves to be seen and heard for who we are, that authenticity, because our perception is it won't be accepted. So when you can come in the presence of somebody who can hold space, who will validate you,
Mm-hmm.
who will not try to tell you, well, just buck up, you're going to be fine, who will actually be like, gosh, that sounds like it's really hard right now. I'm here beside you. Let me know if I can support you. When we can start shifting that culture and that conversation, we're going to see lives change. It's literally just talking about words, right? Words are so important in the grand scheme of things, because
100%.
the difference between, yeah, well, buck it up or stop being so dramatic, to that sounds really hard, how can I support you? That is the whole shift. Oh my gosh. Mountains would move. It did for me and has for you, as you said. Anyway, have a beautiful day. We're going to wrap this up. I will figure out how to, I don't know why my camera went off. See, this is the reality of me being real. Like,
this is the real world.
Oh
this
my
is how
God.
it really works. This is behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I put it out there because I think it's important to just be real. And I'm learning all this stuff. I have no idea. Bought a new camera, spent a lot of money trying to look professional, and then it goes off. Don't know why. And I'm not somebody, I'm a tactile learner, so reading directions doesn't always help me. Anyway, have a beautiful day. We'll see you guys soon. Cheers.
Cheers. Stay beautiful.
That was fun. See?
100%. 100%.